A quick recap. Yesterday we spoke about the different merge type what we have. We spoke about what is rebase. We spoke about what is semi-linear. And we did how do we cherry pick and revert using Azure repos. And then we saw what is branching policies and how do we enforce branching policy. Okay, that is something we did yesterday. Now, anyone has any question with whatever we did till now?
Yeah,
Anyone has? You
I
tell
didn't
me.
I didn't understand the revert, the purpose of it. So I don't know if are we doing that. If we're doing the revert, is it like we kind of like reversing from what we did to go back to the original?
So revert, correct? So you didn't understand revert, why exactly we're doing
Yeah,
revert, correct? Yeah.
yeah.
So revert is basically like, suppose I just give you an example. Suppose you committed something, you made some changes, you committed your changes in your branch. Now,
Mm.
after the commit, you found out that there was some issue with your commit. There was some bug which you have introduced, and there could be some XYZ issue with your commit. Okay. Now, how do you take out that commit? Because that is there inside your branch right now. It's there inside your branch right now, and others may use that commit. Okay, and others may also introduce the same bug which you have introduced. So it's better to take out the complete commit from the branch itself, because if you don't take out, then it could have a severe impact going forward. Okay, like suppose you have committed and you deployed your changes in a dev environment. Now in the dev environment, you found out, okay, there was some issues with this piece of code which I have written, and this may cause bug in future. Okay, now you have already found out, so it's better to remove everything from the branch so that others cannot use it. So at that point of time, we'll be reverting. Reverting basically what it does, whatever you have committed, whatever files you have added to the branch, it will delete that from there. So
Okay, but I saw that when we did the revert, and there was a new commit that was generated.
correct. So that new commit is basically telling you that this file was reverted. Now that is only the history, because if you are reverting, you should have a
Oh,
history, correct?
okay.
So if you don't have the history, how will you track like what was removed? So by the new commit which you saw, that was a history created. So that is just the history, because if you go inside the history, you will see the file got deleted. So there will be a, let me go to that account and I'll show you. So if you see, you will find out that the file was deleted basically in that history. Give me 1 quick minute, I'll show you. Wait a minute, guys. Okay, so we are in our account. Let's go to the project. So if I go back to the commit, so I've reverted the commit, I think, from the develop branch. Let's go into the develop branch, not from the develop release. Yeah, this was my revert. Now, if you see this revert, it's history got created, but if you go inside this file, you can see the file got deleted. This X, this red sign, and this dash, what you see, this is minusing the file, and this file got removed. So this is
Okay.
just a history which got captured, basically telling you at this point of time this file was removed. Okay,
Okay,
great,
thanks.
no problem. Okay, guys, so we'll go back to the theory, a bit of theory, because we haven't understood what exactly is DevOps. And before moving on further, we need to understand work item management. So basically, we need to understand this board section. For understanding this board section, you need to understand few things, such as what is Agile, what is Scrum, and things like that. Okay, so we'll have to go to the theory and understand what is DevOps. Post that, we'll move forward. We make this big. Okay. Now, before I jump onto DevOps, let's understand bit of history of DevOps. Like from where did this DevOps came in? What was there before DevOps? What we were doing? Like if I go back 2 decades back, what exactly we were doing, and how this DevOps thing came in light. So how the software development was happening previously, then very famous model what we used to have previously was waterfall model. So using this model, the software development used to happen in 90s and 20, mostly in 20s also. Okay. Now waterfall model, what exactly it is? A waterfall model is a software development model that is straightforward and linear. So it's very simple, straightforward and a linear model. This is what your waterfall model is all about. So you got only 5 stages over here. You get the requirement, the design, the implementation, verification, and maintenance. So what exactly used to happen in this model? Let's talk about that. This was the model which was widely used, guys, prior to all your other models which you have right now for your software development. During 90s, during 20s, this was the model was getting highly used, along with other models also. But this is something, everything was based on this model. Now, what exactly waterfall model? This is a very simple and straightforward model. Why simple? It has only 5 phases. So you got requirement, you got design, you got implementation, you got verification, and you got maintenance. That's it. So when there's a requirement, what was the major disadvantage of this model? The major disadvantage was whenever there was one phase which is going on right now, the other phase could not start. The other phase was totally dependent upon the previous phase. Like if there's a requirement going on, so there is only requirement, which is requirement gathering, which is happening. There's no design, no implementation, no development, nothing as such happening. So your complete team is involved in requirement gathering. Okay, if you have a complete team, if a team of 10 members, they're all involved in requirement gathering. Once the requirement gathering is done, then you go to the design phase. Similarly, then the implementation phase, then the verification phase. So now what was the issue over here? The major issue was that the client was not able to give you the complete requirement at once. How will the client give you? The client wants to create, just imagine the client wants to create an elephant. Now the client itself is not sure that what exactly he's looking for. He just said has an idea that he is looking for a big four leg, a big giant animal kind of thing. So he himself is not sure that what exactly is he requires. So and then eventually when the product starts building up, clients keeps changing the requirement. No, I was not looking for this. I was looking for an animal with a tail. I was looking for a giant animal with a trunk and things like that. They start popping up different things once the product starts building up. Now that was not very easy in waterfall model. If there is a change in requirement, it was the biggest headache in waterfall model. They cannot easily accommodate change in waterfall model because in waterfall model, what was happening? Every model was dependent on the previous. Once the previous model is complete, previous state or phase is completed, then only the next state will start. Plus, there was a bigger issue like if there's any emergency change, if there's any bug fix, anything as such that cannot be accommodated in waterfall model. So this was a very simple, straightforward model, but this was not at all good for big projects. You can easily use this waterfall model for small projects, guys. Like if you're working on a small development or a mid-scale, not even mid-scale I'll suggest, but if you're working in a small development wherein you got only 2 or 3 developers working together, then this approach can be used. But just imagine if you're working on a larger project, just think of building a shopping website like Amazon, then this model was not at all useful. There are several reasons, because you're just doing requirement once, gathering once, you're doing design once. Then if there's a change in requirement, you go back to the boards again, then you start things again. It was not cost effective. The project was getting extended every time. The project gets extended in waterfall model, and it was not that. And at the end, you will the expectation was you were not even getting the quality product. So that these were the biggest disadvantage what we had in waterfall model. Okay, though it was very simple, but it was not fitting in the requirement. Okay, now this is what it all started. We had this waterfall model, then this waterfall model gave rise to agile methodology. Now this is something we use today. Agile is again a software development method. It's a development approach which is completely based on waterfall model. Now agile is something, it got inspired from waterfall model itself, and it's a latest development approach what we had. Now this is not latest, this is quite old. Agile is not new something that you got 5 years, 6 years back. It's quite old development methodology what we have. Now this was basically inspired by waterfall model. Now if you see what Agile did smartly, it started following the same approach, waterfall model. The only difference Agile did is it started doing things in iterations. Now in waterfall model, we were doing requirement gathering, all these phases only once. Because we were doing things only once, we have to take all the requirement at the very beginning, which was not possible for any client to give the complete requirement at the beginning. And that was the biggest disadvantage. Now this Agile, what it did, it accommodated waterfall model and broke things into iterations. Now in place of taking the complete requirement at once, it started taking requirement in iterations. So it started taking requirement in iteration. It started building things in iteration. Like suppose if I'm building Amazon, Amazon.com. So it took the requirement that okay, the client is looking for Amazon.com. So what it did, it created the product page first. In the first iteration, it created the product page. It developed the design the product page. It developed the product page. It implemented the product page, deployed the product page in the testing environment, and that showcased to the client. Now client has a working environment, working copy to have a look and feel, like how exactly my product will look like. Now if you give a look and feel for something, then definitely you get a quality feedback from the client. Yeah, this looks good, but if I can have a change in filter, if I can change the color, if I can move the logo and things like that, you start getting feedbacks. Now when you start getting feedbacks, eventually what will happen, you will go and improvise. You go back, you change based on the feedback, you go and improvise the thing, you come back, you deploy the things again, then again you take the feedback. So eventually what will happen, you will build a quality product. That is what Agile did. Started doing things in iterations, started building things in iterations. Now Agile methodology is an iterative based software development approach where the software project is broken down into various iterations or sprints. It's one of the same thing. Each iteration has phases like waterfall model. It has the same waterfall model phases such as requirement gathering, design, development, testing, and maintenance. The duration of each iteration is generally 2 to 8 weeks. Okay, understood how Agile took over waterfall model and whatever the backdrops and the disadvantage and drawbacks we had with a waterfall model, that was taken care by this guy, Agile. Okay, now there's a question in the chat. Iteration means doing things in phases. Now, just think of creating a website. It's a shopping website which I'm talking about. Now, the shopping website will have multiple modules. What are the modules? You could have a product page, you could have a child product page, you could have a shopping cart module, you will have payment gateway module, you will have delivery module, and there are many modules. Combining everything, you'll get a shopping website created. Now, in iterations is nothing but the number of weeks you will require to complete those modules. Now, suppose you at the beginning of the sprint. Now, what exactly is sprint? We'll talk about that later. Now, at the beginning of your iterations, you your team decided that this time we'll design a shopping cart module. We'll build the shopping cart module and we'll deploy the shopping cart module. Now you have selected a iteration, or depending upon how big the module is. In Agile, you got minimum of 2 weeks iteration or maximum of 8 weeks of iteration, what you can select in Agile. Now you decided that we'll complete this task in 4 weeks. Now I'm talking about 4 iterations. 4 weeks means 1 week is one iteration. 4 weeks is 4 iterations we are talking about. That is the iteration what we are talking about. That this shopping cart module, my complete team will work for 4 weeks and will complete this modules within 4 weeks. Okay, so your complete team start doing the requirement gathering, your designing and implementation, your deployment, testing, everything will happen in that 4 week. And at the end of the 4 week, you will deploy the shopping cart module at the end server, and you will take the feedback of the client. So this work which you're doing, designing, implementation, requirement gathering, verification, then maintaining, this thing which you're doing for just that particular module, that is done within iteration, that the 4 week iteration which you have selected for yourself. Okay, so iteration in a simple layman term is nothing but its number of weeks which you take to complete your work. Hope that helps. Okay, so Agile is well suited for larger project, guys, wherein you want big iterations, such as you want more than 4 iteration, 5 iteration, then you go with Agile. So this is well suited for larger projects. So like if you're creating a shopping cart website, it's a big project which we are talking about, and which goes on for more than a year and so. So this is Agile is the best suited software development approach which you can go with. Now Agile process, a company that releases application with some high priority features in first iteration. So when we follow Agile and all, so we try to deploy the high priority features, like in a shopping website. Just think of what will be the high priority feature. The shopping cart module will be a high priority feature. A payment gateway will be a high priority feature. Your product page will be the high priority features. Your child product page, men's product page, your app appliance, your laptop, technology product page. These are all high priority features which you will develop at the very first. Then you will build that particular module. Then you will deploy that particular module. These are high priority features, so that once all these features are deployed, at least the client can introduce the website to the market, and later all the small features you can keep on adding, so that development work will keep on going. Okay, so in Agile we'll focus on deploying the high priority features at the in the first iterations. Okay, after it's released, the end user or the customer gives you the feedback. So based on, once you release the product, you have the feedback. Based on the feedback, you go back and you can make changes. Then you make the necessary changes depending upon whatever feedback you got. Based on the feedback, you go and make changes. Very important factor in Agile if you got a ECR, that's emergency change, or a bug fix, or a change in requirement, that can be easily accommodated in Agile. You can simply take up those tasks in the next iteration. So there's nothing as such that you will say no to your client. If there's a change in requirement, you go ahead and take the changes. You ask the client that, yeah, we can do this and we can do it in the next few iterations. In the next few weeks, we can complete this. If there's an emergency change, okay, if there is something emergency has popped up and you need to work on that emergency change on priority, you do it. If there's a bug fix, if there's any bug, then you can take up that bug and you can ask the client, yeah, we can do it in next iteration. So any as such use case, when you get any such use case, if you get, that can be easily done with Agile methodology. We had, like, with waterfall model, that was not the easy case. If you have any such use case with waterfall model, that was very difficult to accommodate, because your team is involved in doing something right now, and you are asking your team to go back and do the requirement and designing again and do the implementation again. That was very difficult to accommodate, and because of that, the project end date was getting extended. In Agile, nothing as such. If there is any emergency change, any requirement change, you can easily accommodate with Agile, because you're doing things in iterations. You can easily do it. Okay, keep that in mind. You repeat this entire process until a desired software quality is achieved. Now, just think of, now you're working on a single module. Your complete team is focused on a single module, and once you deploy the module, you get a immediate feedback from your client. And if there is a change, if the client is asking to change something, you go back and do it again. Okay, so this is the cycle what you follow, and once you follow this cycle, eventually at the end of the day, you're getting a quality product which is well tested, which is well approved, which is well uh, approved, and which is well tested by few users. So you got a quality product, and the things which you're deploying, the things will not fail now. So that kind of quality which we're talking about. Okay, now Agile is a very big process, guys. This is a very big methodology. In Agile, there are multiple other methodology which you will come across. So Agile is a big umbrella. Now, if you go deep dive into Agile, then you find out multiple other things. But yeah, we don't need to deep dive. We are not Scrum masters. Okay, we are a DevOps engineers, so we just need to know what exactly these terminologies are. What is Agile? What is iterations? What is waterfall model? What is Scrum, and things like that. Okay, we don't need to deep dive. Like, if you want to be a Scrum master later, then you can definitely do it. But yeah, from a DevOps engineer perspective, you just need to know what exactly these methodologies are, what are these key components, and if you come across these words, like, you should just know that. Okay, so Agile methodology, there are some popular methodology which falls under Agile, such as Scrum. We all know Scrum. Scrum is the second highest used methodology right now. Then we got extreme programming, adaptive software development, dynamic software method, feature driven, Kanban, behavior driven. Now these are all Agile based methodology. Now Agile is a iteration based methodology, and it has set of principle, 12 set of principles what you have with Agile. Now the same thing you can do it, and all these principles what you see over here, these are all Agile based. Okay, these are all Agile based. Now what exactly they follow? So there are 12 set of principle, as I said, which is laid down by Agile. So all this above methodology which you saw, they follow these principles. Now what are these principles? Nothing, I will not read through this principle. I'll be sharing this documentation. Just go through these principles, guys. But let me give you an high overview of what exactly these principles are all about. So these principles are basically talking about giving highest priority to your customer. Never saying no if there's a change in requirement. Uh, Getting the call, desire feedback from the customer. If there's a change in requirement, accommodating those changes. and things like that. This is what these principles are talking about. Now just let me read through one of them. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Let's read something else also. Agile process promotes sustainable development. The sponsored developers and users should be able to maintain constant pace indefinitely. Continuous attention to the technical excellence and good design enhance agility. So these are 12 principles, and based on these 12 principles, all these other methodology are defined. So these methodology they follow, and they are based on these 12 principles what you see right now. Working software is a primary. This is what these 12 principles are all about, and all this methodology, as I said, Agile is a big umbrella. Under umbrella, there are multiple other process methodology which got derived out of Agile. Okay, so when you go to be a Scrum Master, at that time you'll understand all this methodology in great details. You learn Six Sigma and many more methodology in greater details. Okay, which is not required for a DevOps engineer, which is not required for a developers, not even for a tester. But yeah, if you want to be at the project level, project management level, and if you want to be a Scrum Master basically, then you deep dive into all this methodology, or else it is not required for us. Okay, now the other very important methodology which we have in the market is called Scrum. We all know, everyone over here I think might be working as a in a Scrum team wherein you got a daily call, a daily follow-up call wherein you have a Scrum Master taking feedbacks, telling you what needs to be done, what not needs to be done, checking whether you have completed your work or not, and things like that. Nowadays, if you're working as a DevOps team, you will follow Scrum, either Scrum or Agile process. Mostly, either you will follow a Scrum or a Agile process mostly. Now, what is the difference between Scrum and Agile? As I said, Scrum is basically derived out of Agile, correct? Now, what different is Scrum and what from Agile? Now, Scrum is the most popular and widely used Agile frameworks. With Agile framework called Scrum, there are two primary roles: Scrum Master and Product Owner. Now, let me explain your difference before we jump on and understand what exactly is Scrum Master and what is a Product Owner. Now, Agile is basically is for large project, wherein you want big iterations, minimum 2, maximum 8. On the other hand, Scrum is basically created for small and mid-scale projects. Why small and mid-scale project? Because Scrum, the minimum sprint you can select as 1 week, and the maximum you can go is 4 weeks. So this is well suited for small and mid-scale project. Now, if you want big sprint, now sprint and iteration is exactly the same, guys. In iteration, we call it in Agile. Whenever you do Agile framework, at that time we call iteration. And whenever you do Scrum framework, at that time we call sprint. It's one of the same thing. It's the number of weeks. It's called iteration. 1 week is one iteration, and 1 week is one sprint. Just keep that in mind. Don't get confused. That is the only change you have in between Agile and Scrum. So Scrum is basically is following the Agile principle itself, nothing different. Okay. Now, this is the major difference. If it's a small project, then you go with Scrum. And if it's a big project wherein you need big iterations to build your modules, then you go with Agile. Just keep that in mind. Now, there are two primary roles what you have in Agile. What you have in Scrum: a Scrum Master and a Product Owner. Now, a Scrum Master is someone who makes sure that the team is following the Agile principle. A Scrum Master, in reality, a Scrum Master is is the person who makes sure that a team is following the agile principle. There's no diversion, and if there is any impediments or distraction, then he is the one who will make sure the team is on track. He is the one who will, whatever requirement was captured, he is the one who will be making sure all the requirement gets captured inside your work item tree. So the work item tool could be any tool. Like, in order to capture all this requirement, you can use any tool. He can use Jira, he can use Confluence. In my case, I'll be using Azure work items. Correct? So it's one of the same thing. It's the same tool, guys. Nothing different. It's the same. You capture the work item, you have everything in place, and this is all done by the Scrum Master. So the Scrum Master is the coach and the gatekeeper. The Scrum Master establishes responsibility for following agile principle, providing guidance, educating the Scrum team, and removing impediments and distraction that keeps the team from doing work. One question to you all: do you think a Scrum Master needs to be a technically expert guy to guide you? What do you think? Do you think a Scrum Master needs to be a technical expert guy? Victoria says no. Anyone else? Prashant says no. Okay. Any specific reason, guy? Prashant, Victoria, why no? Why do you think that a Scrum Master does not need to be a technical expert guy? Any specific reason?
Um, well, looking at the description, it doesn't look
Hmm.
like to be very technical. Looks like you need to understand the agile principles or the framework principles and be good at like project management and stakeholder management.
Perfect. And even Prashant said they're just following the process. Good. Yes, it's right. Looking at the description, not just the description, a Scrum Master not necessarily needs to be a technical expert. The reason is straightforward. They got a defined things to follow. They get the things from the product owner. They just put it in the work. They make sure that the team is following the agile principle. And if there's any expertise needed, if the team is stuck, as I said, if the team is stuck somewhere, and if there's any expertise needed, he go back to the other SMEs, the subject matter expert from the other project, and he tries to get the help from them. Over here, Scrum Master not necessarily required to be a technical expert. So yeah, right. Now on the other hand, we have product owner. Now the product owner of your Scrum team is the first and the foremost the subject matter expert. Now this guy needs to be the technical expert and the subject matter expert for the given project. The product owner keeps track of project stakeholder expectation and defines and gathers the required tool and resources that the Scrum team needs. Let me explain you this product owner role. Now the product owner, he's the person who interacts with the stakeholder. When I say stakeholder, I'm talking about the clients, I'm talking about your management and things like that. He's the one who reaches out to the client, takes the requirement, and and then the requirement is passed to the team. He's the one who is setting up the target. He's the one who is deciding what module needs to be created. He's the one who is deciding what tools needs to be used. He's the one who is setting up communicating the vision to the team, that what exactly we are looking for, and he's the one who is setting up priorities. So this guy, this product owner guy, needs to be a subject matter expert. Whatever the If this guy is not subject matter expert, then just forget about your project. The project will be doomed. This guy needs to have a good experience. This guy needs to have worked on various things, and then this guy needs to be given a project so that you can develop a quality product at the end. Okay, because being a developer, being a DevOps engineer, you are not reaching out to the client. The requirement is not given to you directly. The requirement comes via product owner. So this person needs to be a subject matter expert. Then only you can have a good quality product created at the end. Okay. So the product owner of your Scrum team is the first and the foremost subject matter expert for the given project. The product owner keeps track of the project's stakeholder expectation and defines and gathers the required tools and resources the Scrum team needs. When I say tools and resources, yeah, the product owner will definitely take a call. But yeah, if you want to give suggestion what tools we can use, best tools we can use, you can definitely give suggestion. But yeah, eventually the call will be taken by the product owner whether to go with that tool or not. Okay, because there are several things. It will check for license, it will check for cost, whether it's open source, whether we have enterprise version and things like that. So there are many things gets involved when you are talking about any tools. So you may suggest some tools that yeah, we can go with Jenkins. Now Jenkins is open source. The subject matter expert will say no, we don't want to go with open source, let's go with Azure DevOps. That's a Microsoft tool. Okay, if he's ready to spend more, if he's ready to buy the agent pools, if he's ready to have the extra parallel agent pools created and things like that, then yeah, go with a Azure DevOps or go with Jenkins. So all this call will be taken by the product owner himself. You can just give your suggestion what best we can do in order to achieve something. Okay, they may decide, "Yeah, let's build the front end using Angular." Someone will say just go with React. Someone will say let's just use vanilla JavaScript. In the back end, let's use PostgreSQL. So all this suggestion will be given to the product owner, and eventually the product owner will decide what needs to be done. Okay, now this is how your Scrum team looks like. Now in the Scrum team, we just spoke about Scrum Master, basically is the gatekeeper. Then we spoke about product owner. There's one more person over here. That's your dev team. A Scrum team consists of one more members. That's dev team. Dev team, I'm not just talking about developers, guys. In dev, I'm talking about developers, testers, DevOps engineers, and if required, you will have people from operation team also now. Now this team is basically focused on whatever requirement you got from the product owner, whatever the work. So what is the role of a Scrum Master now? Once the requirement is captured by the product owner, the requirement is written in a tool. Those requirements are captured as a backlog in a tool, whatever tool it is. I'm not naming the tool now because depending upon what type of project you're working, the tool may change. You might use Jira, you might use Confluence, you might use Azure work items. So it's one of the same thing, guys. It's just the naming convention which will differ, but exactly the process remains same. You will gather the requirement from the client and you will capture those requirements in a detailed requirement in your work item tool. So that is what the role which will be done by the Scrum Master, and those work items will be assigned to your dev team. Okay, so your dev team will be assigned to those work items, and eventually in a sprint you will start working on those work items. That is what Scrum team is all about. Now if you see this arrow, the Scrum Master is just interacting with the business owners. I'm talking about your internal management team. Okay, wherein your product owner is interacting with the business owner as well as the stakeholders. So the major requirement gathering is done by the product owner himself. Okay, now if you see your dev team, the dev team is not interacting with anyone. They are just interacting with SMEs. At the extreme left, what you see, there are SMEs from the different project. What did I say? The Scrum Master, if you are stuck somewhere and if you need any expertise, your Scrum Master may reach out to other project SMEs and get the required help. So yeah, that is what it's showing over here in the diagram. Okay, now this is a typical example of a Scrum team, and now this is a typical Scrum flow which most of you guys, if you're working as a Scrum team or an Agile team, this is the flow which you will be following right now. But I'll not talk about this flow today. Today I'll talk about where did this DevOps came in picture. We spoke about waterfall model, we spoke about Agile, now we spoke about Scrum. Now, did you guys notice one thing? All this method is just talking about software development, planning, designing, testing, building, except that's it. Even your waterfall model was only talking about software development. Even your Scrum is only talking about software development. Agile is also talking about software development. All this method, what you see, the umbrella, what the big umbrella, what you see, they're all talking about software development. What about deployment post that? Now, with this Agile and Scrum and all this methodology, we were able to build modules at a very faster rate. We were able to build modules within a week. We were able to develop software at a quality software at a very faster rate. Now, the other side of the problem was the deployment and the maintenance. Now, your software was built. Now, when you went back to the to deploy those software, you don't have the infra ready. Okay, for example, now you developed your software, you want to deploy this into a dev environment. You reach out to your system team, asking them that this is the configuration and this is what I needed. Now they went back, they created a VM for you, they gave the VM to you. Now when you try to deploy your application on top of it, your application fails because of XYZ reason. The dependency, there's a mismatch in dependency, a version of your dependency is not matching and things. There are many issues which you will come across. Now somehow by doing back and forth, you were able to get your software deployed on the dev environment. Now the same issue will come back when you do it your deployment in the QA environment. Now just imagine you're doing your software development in 2 weeks and your infra creation takes 3 to 4 weeks. So there was a complete mismatch. Plus when the software got developed, now you simply hand over the software to the operation team just to go and maintain the software. Now the operation team is not even aware what exactly the software is all about. They are not even for a smallest issue. They go back to the development team. They ask, the software is not behaving. This is the error what we are getting. Now the development team involves again. They do the fixing. Then again they hand over the things to the operation team. This was the biggest gap what we had. On one side you are doing the software development at a very faster rate. On the other side of the world, you are still lacking with the basic infrastructure, the operations and the monitoring part. The reason is straightforward. They were never involved. The operation team was not part of your development. Now once you've done the development after a year, then you're giving just for 2 days of training that this is how software like these are the models what we have and things like that, and you just dumped the software on operational team head. Now they don't know what to do with this software. If the application misbehaves, they don't know what to do. They are dependent. The complete operation team is dependent now. They will go and catch the developer, then the developer will come back, he will go and debug, he will go and fix it. All this issue was happening. Infra creation was the biggest issue. Then you got the maintenance was the other biggest issue. Monitoring was other bigger issue. So though your software development was at the very faster rate, your quality of the software was getting degraded at the maintenance and at the monitoring side. So basically your customer is dissatisfied. Now, even though Agile and all, they were very much a very good software development process which was laid down, They were not talking about deployment. After deployment, what? They were not talking about those things. Now, if you see this graph, plan, design, build, accept, and just deploy. Nothing else going forward. Now, this was the biggest issues which we had doing 20s. Now, just think how fast you're developing your software using this methodology. You're creating the software in a week. You're creating a module in a week. Now, if you don't have the right infra, what is the point of creating this software in a week? You need to have that infrastructure ready. You need to have the operation team know that what exactly was created. You should. So all these were the biggest issues what we had. Now, in order to get this issue resolved, we have something called DevOps. The DevOps came in picture. Now, DevOps is talking about development and operation work, collaboration. So DevOps is the biggest terminology which was coined, and they were talking about development and operation team collaborating together. Now, what exactly this collaboration means? Collaboration means whenever the development work has started, at the same time the operational guys are also involved, giving them a clear picture that this is the module we are will be creating the next 4 weeks of iteration. Now, for creating this module, I'll need this XYZ infra with XYZ configuration. All this, and this is during the requirement gathering phase itself, they are involved. So they know what exactly this module is at the very beginning itself. So while the development is happening at one side, the operation team is working on the other side, creating the infrastructure, getting the right version, and having everything in line. Now, once the software is ready, your infra is also ready. They deploy the infra in collaboration. So the deployment is done by the operation team now. So the operation team is doing the deployment and things like that. Now, once it is deployed successfully, now the operation team is well aware what exactly that module is. If anything goes haywire, if the application module which got deployed has some issues, the first and the second level of troubleshooting will be done by the operation team themselves. They will not reach out. They are not dependent on development team now. They know what exactly this module is. They know what is the source code has been used. They know what are the services running. They know majorly many things they know now. So they can do the first and the second level of troubleshooting by themselves now. They are very much capable. Okay, that was the major change which was bought with DevOps. DevOps is nothing but it's a development and operation team collaborating together. So that's why I said nowadays in a Scrum team, it's not only the developers. You got DevOps engineers. DevOps engineers are developers. They get the title of developers, guys. You got Q testers. You got people from operation team also. So the dev team is now collaboration of multiple people, not just your development team who is just doing the development. So that was a major change what we have bought in DevOps. Now DevOps is a cultural where collaboration between development, operation, and business team consider a critical aspect of DevOps journey. Now the business has to support this, guys. Tomorrow you cannot decide like, okay, I'm in my operation, I want to collaborate with my development team. I just go and sit with them. No, that doesn't happen. The business has to collaborate. The business has to make sure that there's a collaboration between development and operation team is happening, and it should be well supported by your business team, because hiring a DevOps engineer it's not a cheap task. If you want to hire a good DevOps engineer nowadays, they are more costlier than a developer. Okay, this is not just I'm making words, guys. This is the trend right now. If you are a good DevOps engineer, you get paid more than a developer now. Because DevOps engineer are not just focused on one development activity. There are multiple things what a DevOps engineer do nowadays. A developer is developing Angular, like just you are Angular developer, so you focus, your focus area is Angular. Do you think a DevOps engineer focus area is only Azure DevOps? And if you think that, then you're wrong. Not just Azure DevOps, you need to have good with Terraform, you need to have good with Docker, you need to be good with microservice deployment, you need to have good with CI/CD, your orchestration, your configuration management. There's so many things a DevOps engineer needs to focus on. On top of it, you need to be good with automations. So if you ask me, and if you see the last 3-4 years trend, a good DevOps engineer gets paid more than a developer. Okay, so a DevOps engineer, it's not so when I take interviews, like when I ask questions like what is DevOps, I get this question like a development and operation team collaborating together, and then they start directly with talking about tools such as Jenkins, Azure DevOps, and all this. These tools are not DevOps, guys. Understand that. This Azure DevOps, Kubernetes, and all these are not DevOps. DevOps itself has set of principles, and these tools are supporting those principles. Now, what DevOps talks about? Collaboration, correct? Now, what Git does? Git helps you with collaboration, correct? You can easily put in your source code in a Git repository. You can share the source code with other developers. You can easily move your source code from one place to other. This is what Git is doing. Git is helping you to achieve DevOps methodology. It is helping you to collaborate easily. Now think of other tool, Azure CI/CD, Jenkins CI. What exactly they are doing? They are helping you automate your build process. They're helping you automate. So in a week, there are so many development activity you started doing. Now just imagine if you're doing those manual. You got the software developed and now you're doing manually building the software, then deploying the software manually on the server. This is very time consuming. Now nowadays with just one click, the software gets built and the software gets deployed to your end server. This is how it is happening. This is happening with your CI/CD tools, whatever tools you use. So what is that? That is those tools are built based on DevOps methodology. So tools are just one of the pillar. The main important component in DevOps is the people and the process which you have laid out. People play a very important role to follow DevOps culture. The people has to come together, collaborate together to build a quality product. If they don't collaborate, the business is telling collaborate, you guys are not even sitting together. The operation team know nothing about what's happening. The development team is least bothered to tell you something. So that is not DevOps. I've seen many companies, they're using all the latest DevOps tools. They're using Git for the namesake, they're using Docker and things, they are using everything, but there's no collaboration. Definitely there's no DevOps culture over there. They're just for the namesake, they're just using the tools. That's it. So such projects will not, it's not a fruitful project. This will definitely fail some or other time. So DevOps is a culture where collaboration between development, operation, and business team consider a critical aspect of DevOps journey. It is not solely about the tools. And DevOps organization that creates continuous value for the customer. Tools are the only one pillar, the other being people and process. People and process plays a very important role in DevOps. But without tools, again, it's a failure. People and process and tools. So whenever you get an interview question, what is DevOps? Talk about collaboration between development, operation, and well supported by business as a DevOps. Tools are just one of the pillar, people and process being the first two important pillars in DevOps. Now DevOps also talks about the same thing, guys. Instead of releasing large number of application feature, we try to deploy small number of features and take the feedback and things like that. So same thing like what we do it in Agile, the same thing we talk about over here. The only difference is in Agile we just spoke about development. In DevOps we we talk about development as well as deployment, both the terms, not just development. With DevOps, you got lower failure rates, increased deployment frequency. Now we are talking about deployment. See the difference. Now we are not just talk about development over here. We talk about development as well as deployment. Okay. Quicker mean time to recovery, shorten lead time between fixes. So this is a basic theory of DevOps. Now, why did I start from waterfall, agile, scrum? Then I spoke about DevOps. You should understand the flow where DevOps came in. Okay. So that's it for today, guys. If anyone has any questions with this theory, tomorrow also we'll have bit of theory. Then we'll start with the work item manually. We'll create an agile process work item, and we'll start working with work items. Okay. So that's it for me. If anyone has any questions with the theory, please do let me know. I'll share this documentation with Valaxy admin team. They will upload it on the portal. Okay. But anyone has any questions, please do let me know before we wind up the call for today. Any questions, guys? No questions? No problem. Okay, guys. Thank you very much. Let's meet up tomorrow and let's continue and let's understand Scrum workflow. Then we'll start with work item demo. Okay. Bye bye.